Now let's move into Muhammad. This is one of our favorite areas. This is what you wrote your book on. Sydney asked this question: why did the Nicene Creed of 325 A.D. not reach Muhammad through the Christians, or did he choose to ignore it? So, this is similar to what an earlier question you got. But why do you think, if this is so early, why is it they did not know about this?
It's likely that the Christians that Muhammad had to do with, or I should say, the Christians that the people who formulated Islam had to do with, were the ones in the area of not Arabia so much as Iraq and Syria, and the area where, in other words, the heretics had gone. The Byzantine Empire had several ecumenical councils that are still recognized by most of the Christian churches as being authoritative, in which they defined various dogmas about the nature of Christ and the divinity of Christ and so on. And the people who did not accept those decrees were at a tremendous disadvantage in the society, because Byzantine society was based around its unity as Christians, the unity of Christians. And so those who were considered to have broken that unity were not full citizens, were subject to various kinds of discrimination and harassment. They left the empire and went to the precise areas where Islam began formulating. So these are anti-Nicene, as well as anti-Nicene, that is pre-Nicene Christians who don't accept the Council of Nicaea for the most part. And so they're not going to be telling the people who formulated Islam about it. And the theology of Christianity that is reflected in the Quran comes from those elements of Christianity, that the Gnostics, they did not kill or crucify him, but it appeared so unto them. There are Gnostic Gospels where Jesus only seems to be crucified. He's a phantasm. The denial of the divinity of Christ, which is a development out of Nestorian Christianity, which denies that the divine and the human Christ are a unified person. And consequently, that can lead one to denying the divinity of Christ altogether, as well as Arianism, which also denies the divinity of Christ. You have all these people congregating around the precise areas where Islam is invented.
Okay, so that's why it reflects that. That's a great point. I mean, have you written this up? Is this in one of your books?
I don't think so, actually. That's something I should write.
Because that influence, the enormous, I mean, this is what John Wansborough referred to in his books in 1977 and 78, the sectarian milieu and Quranic geography. When he looked at that, all the writings that were happening, he said, first of all, these writings only took a place much, much further north in places like Ctesiphon, which is today Baghdad. And then those writings would not have existed that far south. But then he also said almost all of these writings reflect these sectarian groups that had been thrown out of the Byzantine Empire. They were part of the diaspora. Those who were putting the Quran together in the 8th century. He was then making that big jump. This is in 1977. You realize that was a big jump at that time. Would have had access to this kind of material. It stands to reason then that they were incorporating this material into this book that they were now putting together. We now know that John Wansborough was right, and he was correct. He was vilified at the time, but it seems exactly what you're saying, that they were incorporating a lot of these ideas from these sectarian writers, Gnostic writers, and all the rest. So it stands to reason then why they even took on that theology.
I think that some of this might be in Did Muhammad Exist? I do believe, I mean, this is one of the first things, incidentally, that if you'll pardon a personal note, this is one of the first things I learned about Islam, actually. In the first paper I ever wrote on Islam when I was in college back in, I guess it was around 1981 or 83, was about how the Gnostic Gospels, particularly the Gospel of Thomas, influenced the Quranic view of Christ. And so this is something that I think I put some things about it into Did Muhammad Exist, but it certainly bears a great deal more attention.
Yeah.